Hope everybody's having a great, great, great day, man. It's been a whirlwind of a weekend just watching all the softball and just really experiencing really every athlete at the elite level and how they've competed and figured out ways to make things happen. It's been really awesome to see, and so I hopefully your daughters, if they have the dreams of playing at the next level, hopefully they are 100% watching softball. And I think one of the things that we want to do is watch it from the perspective of really every perspective, not just like the game, who's winning, who's losing, but like the strategy, like what are people doing in my particular position? How are these hitters hitting? What are they being pitched as hitters, based on where they are in the lineup? If your athlete is the number four hitter, what do you see them throwing the number four hitter? Or if they're a power hitter, what do they see them throwing, right? If they're a slapper, what do they see them throwing to them? Because that pattern or that theme is a theme. And I think if your athlete can learn that as early as ninth grade, it's going to make a whirlwind of a difference for them as they continue to progress in this sport. So I'm just trying to get myself set up here. But I thank y'all for jumping in and joining today. Angie, what's up? What's up with who else is in here today? We got Angie. We got, can't really see who else actually. Stacy, what's up, Stacy? Thanks for joining. And yeah, so again, this week I got one question, and then I have a few other questions that I, received. So I'm gonna jump into those questions. But if you have any other questions you would like for me to answer, please send them for me or send them to me in the chat. I see it on my phone here, so that's why I keep looking to the side because I'm watching myself on the live. It's crazy technology. You got to have all the things working. So I would like to start with the first question that I received from a parent today that put it in the comments. She asked the question, when should my athletes start going to camps? And I thought that was a really good question. I know I've answered that a while back, and maybe I haven't even answered that question specifically. So I think it's a really great question. First, what I'll say is if you don't have my recruiting timeline, which breaks down what your athletes should be doing from as young as seventh grade through 12th grade, make sure you find that link in my post. I'll tag it here in a little bit, but make sure you get access to that. And actually, if you signed up for when you signed in, if you left your email, you should be on there to receive it. So if you didn't receive it, let me know. I'll definitely make sure I add you or again find the link in the chat. But when should my athlete start going to college camp? So I think that's a really good question. And so I had an answer to that before where I would say locally, your athlete should go to college camps as early as eighth grade. I think at eighth grade, and I don't want you to spend too much money on this, but I want you to allow her to because I think at seventh and eighth grade, there should be a conversation and decision made that I am going to do the things that are required of me to play at a high level of softball, of playing at the next level. When I say high level, when I think about softball in general, only 7% of athletes actually make it to college softball. So it's a pretty high level, regardless of what level you go to, community college, NAIA, D2, D1, right? D3, no matter what program you go to, that's a high level program. So I want to be clear on that. And so why do I say at eighth grade make that decision and at eighth grade to go to camps? That's where we now start to really put our athletes or allow our athletes to start to evaluate where they are compared to the athletes within their age group. Also, I used to coach a 14U team with eighth graders and seventh graders who can really outplay some of the 16U teams out there. And so what this allows us to do again is like there are levels to this. And if your athlete is demonstrating that they want to play at the next level, this gives them opportunity to again sort of rank themselves or at least kind of see where they are, have self-awareness around where they are compared to where other people in their age group are. So you'll notice most college camps will say eighth grade to college. And we do that for a reason. So it's really to get your athlete out there again to get exposed to it. And so I think that's a really good age to start. I would say I would also say at eighth grade, what should be happening is me sort of navigating a top 50 recruiting list of like schools that I might be interested in. Now, this can be a broad list, but it's a list that they create that we're starting to figure out, okay, let's target some of these schools. And I have a breakdown somewhere where I tell you guys like kind of how the breakdown happens with the 50, like my top schools, my schools I'm like really reaching for, schools that I know I could probably make happen, sort of my fallback schools. So it's 50 for a reason. But at that eighth grade year, they should definitely have that in place or start to build that. So when they do that, now they have more areas to target as far as what camps to go to. Now, definitely don't go to all 50 colleges, but it's a start of like, let me learn more about these programs. So once I have that, when I get to ninth grade, now I'm really starting to put myself out there as a potential recruit. So now we're definitely trying to target like the more higher level D1 schools in the ninth grade year because we're trying to see again, where does my skill as a ninth grader evaluate or lead up to or match up to the athletes who are in the ninth grade across the country. So yes, I would say then you're starting to kind of pick up on those bigger schools. So start local, bigger schools. I think you do the bigger schools, the reach for the stars through their freshman year, sophomore year. If they're not making any sort of progress with those schools in communication, not saying that it's impossible to go D1, but I would say definitely start expanding your horizons to more of the D2s, D3s, and AIA. So that sophomore year, definitely start to look at the list and say, okay, I might be more in a better situation of making a stance or standing out or being valued at this particular space and level. So now I'm going to start kind of targeting those particular schools. So that would be sort of my advice as to when to start, and then I think where to advance to, and then when to kind of have a reality check of, okay, maybe let me start looking at a different pond because in ninth grade, beginning of 10th grade, I'm not getting the traction that I want. Okay. And I think when you are in the 10th grade, if a Division I school wants you, they will find you. So if you see a lot of girls um, that'll post like, oh, I got a letter from LSU, or I got a letter from this, and they're a sophomore, they're on their radar and they're getting that mail because they're on their radar. So like, I think that leaves a lot of people assuming that if they're getting that mail, then my daughter still has opportunity. If your daughter's not getting that mail, I'm not saying they don't have opportunity, but like if they're not getting that mail from those schools at their sophomore year or junior year, because that's really late, then I would say you're not on their radar. And so definitely start thinking about other opportunities to look into. So that's my advice on that. From a perspective of someone who's been at a Power Five school, now at another Division I school. That's kind of what I got. So make sure if you have any other questions, definitely drop them in the chat. But I got a new client this weekend. Super excited about this person. And she is a part of my program. And so within my program, 360 Athlete Program, I'm helping them navigate the recruiting process, also building confidence and helping them like play in pressure. And I think also like knowing their value, right? And so we get text access. So like once she's a part of the group, she gets to text me personally on my personal cell phone and ask me questions. And so she sent me some questions. She said, "Hey, coach, I know it doesn't start to June 1st, but is it cool if I ask you a couple questions about recruiting?" And I'm like, absolutely. You're in the group now. Ask me your questions. So she sent me 3 questions, and I thought it'd be beneficial to parents on here to hear what the questions were and give you the answers. So I'll finish up the call tonight with these questions. So she's talking specifically about Twitter. And I started this conversation with her. I met her because we did a social media audit together. So we went through her social media, through her videos, through what she's been posting or not posting, and I've gave her advice on that. So we started there. And so now that she's kind of building up, and she's done a great job literally in the first couple of weeks, not weeks, days, first couple of days of really revamping and utilizing the information that I've provided to her. She's utilized that information to then implement it into her social media. So I'm super proud of her already, and we haven't even began really working together. But She asked me three questions. She said, so should I tag or at coaches on my Twitter post? And I think this is a trap for a lot of athletes. Not a trap. I won't say a trap. It's a waste of time in some ways for a lot of athletes. And so my question back to her was, well, have you already emailed these coaches? Have they responded to you? Right. So if the coaches have responded to her, she's emailed them, they responded to her, then I think it's great to tag a coach in your post. But if they have not been responsive, we have to stick to the emails. And then what I would say is DM them. Right. So now what we're trying to do is catch their attention. So this might be a case where it's like you're not going to catch their attention by posting them on by posting them, tagging them on your post, but emailing them, sending a direct message. Those are just kind of alerts like how do I get their attention? So if your daughter is out there just tagging coaches on their posts, please stop it. It only makes them look unsure of what they really want. It makes it seem like they're unrealistic to their potential like their potential schools. And so I would say again, if you don't have any prior communication with these coaches, don't tag them. So an example of this would be we did a camp. We've only done one camp, two camps this year, but we did one camp and an athlete that we were interested in. We followed up. We've had Zoom calls with this person. You know, we're actively recruiting this athlete. So now what she's doing is she's now tagging us on her posts. This is a separate athlete from what I'm talking about right now, but where she's now tagging us on her post to update us on what she's got going on. See how that makes sense? So now I go and look at it because I'm like, oh, what's this girl doing? You know, what's Hope doing or whatever her name is, right? And so that's giving me the opportunity to say, okay, cool. Like she's doing what she needs to do. Great. So if you don't have that sort of relationship, like don't tag me. No offense, but don't tag me. DM me, email me, try to find a way to get in touch with me. Okay. So the second question she asked is can I or should I DM coaches on social media to ask if they are going to have any camps or should I stick to emails? So again, another great question, especially going into summer. I'm getting a lot of emails right now about camps. And so I would say similar response, definitely email them, but I would say check their website because their website is going to give you some information. If they don't have it on their website, I'll check their social media because between those two things, they should be posting already what camps they're going to have. So I would say those schools who are out of the postseason, they should already have what camps they're going to be doing over the summer out. If they're still in the postseason, they probably are not going to have those things out. Actually, some of them probably will because it's time for them to build up, you know, income for next year for their volunteers and things like that. So they might have it out already, but if they don't, maybe give them another week or two. But everybody else should have their camps out. So if you don't see it on their website, definitely then email them. And then I think that's a great way to have a conversation or start a conversation with the coach on your Twitter DMs. Okay. So that would be a good way to maximize communication, especially when you're talking about camps. So my advice to her was email them, but also check their website and then feel free to direct message them if you don't see anything on their website. Okay. And then the final question was more private. It was about a tagline of an email, and I thought it was really cool. But I can give you kind of what she said. She kind of had, you know, her name, her grad year, position, and then what she had was a kind of a catchy sort of tagline of hers. And I said, my answer to her was email subject line, laugh out loud. It'd be like, if it was me, I'd be like, what does that mean? Right. As a coach, I'd be like, what does that mean? But it would catch my attention. Right. So it would spark my interest is what I said. I said, but I do think that coaches would have to have a quirky personality and not take themselves too serious to respond to this particular email sort of subject line. So I would say, if you can understand or know a coach's personality, know they're kind of a little quirky, that would be really cool. Some coaches would be like, that's weird, right? So I think that's more of a case by case basis, but it also allows you to learn a little bit more about the coach through their social media to kind of see like, do they kind of have any quirky sort of mentalities? But I think it would definitely catch my attention. I think about also one of my alumni who is awesome in my program, going to University of Washington next year, Allie Hetzel. So Hetzel, her last name is Hetzel, and so her email is Hetzel Pretzel. And I will tell you that I don't recommend anybody's email name being that when you're in the recruiting process, but it worked for her because she's also quirky and it was also catchy. So like when she would talk to coaches at camps, she would give them their email address or she would show them the email address on her profile and it would say, hetzelpresso@gmail.com, right? And so now what it does is it's like, oh, that's interesting, but I remember that, right? So again, it just depends on the coach, but it is catchy. So there are pros and cons to how you kind of would answer that question. So that's kind of how I gave her the answer to that question. So that's access that you get being in the program. You can literally ask me any question. How does this email look? What does this Facebook post look like? Should I update this clip? Is this clip good enough? So I'm really excited to work with her. But I got another question, so we'll go ahead and answer it. Do the prospect letters coming to the schools for the athletes mean they are on their scholarship schools radar? Yes, 100%. At the Division I level. So let me clarify that statement. So um, Division I schools are usually going after athletes who other schools are also going after. So they also have to find ways to show their interest. And so the extra layer of sending an email or sending mail is their way of saying I'm interested in you at some level or regard. So when I was at the University of Washington, we had a spreadsheet of every age group. So we had, eighth graders, ninth graders, 10th graders, and then we kind of had them ranked. And we were sending letters to them based on like who do we believe really would fit our program, who do we believe other people might be having interest in them, and so then how do we also show them that we're interested in them as well. So like I would say if you're getting the bigger letters from schools, absolutely. And if they're spending money to send you mail versus just sending you an email, yes, they're definitely on you. You're on their radar. I think when it comes to, I would just kind of end it with that because I think the lower level schools, I would say probably don't send as much mail because it costs money. They probably, but if you're getting emails, responses that are like, oh, sign up for our camp, fill out our questionnaire, you've gotten them to respond, but then you got to kind of keep that momentum going because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're on their radar, if that makes any sort of sense. So I hope that that answers the question, Mickey. Let me know if I need to clarify, but I think it kind of makes sense. So, does anybody else have any questions before we jump out of here? I think we actually covered a lot of things today, which is kind of cool. Um, but always here to support and help y'all. Tanisha, you welcome. Thanks for asking the question. It does. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, great. Well, listen, as always, I am here to answer your questions. Like that's literally what this is about. So don't be afraid to send me the questions ahead of time, beforehand, afterhand, whatever, so that I can make sure I get to them on the next call. And then you always have the opportunity to watch the replay. So I appreciate y'all for jumping in. As a reminder, I have a webinar this Sunday. The 5 things that I believe athletes need to have in order to maximize their summer recruiting. So if you're interested in joining that particular Zoom, I have it pinned as a link in the group. So make sure you sign up for it. I'm also going to have a couple of special guests. One particular, Allie Hetzel, the University of Washington commit, will also be on there to kind of give her perspective of how she stood out, how she got an opportunity to stand out to her college coaches, what she did in this process for the summer. And so it'll be a great time to join. So if you haven't already registered, make sure you register. And we will see y'all on Sunday or we'll see you next Tuesday. But thank y'all for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.